Summer routines live or die by how easy they are. And honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Hey everybody, welcome and thank you for listening to this episode of Marriage Therapy Radio. My name is Zach Brittle. I'm here today with one of the more delightful interviews I've done in a while. With Frannie Sheridan and her husband Danny. And when they first reached out to me, there was a line in the pitch that had to do with humming. And you heard that correctly. Yeah, like humming, like you do into a kazoo, I guess, or like And I was intrigued. I wanted to know, what was this about? And I tell you what, I formed an idea in my head and it was the wrong idea. And so talking with Frannie and Danny about their relationship and about the things that they have discovered through their life it was fascinating. And, you know, there's a lot that comes up in this conversation that I'm skeptical about because I'm not as attached with or as attuned to some of my sort of embodied experiences. So talking with Frannie and Danny both was very cool to watch them literally share their practice with us on the interview, and you'll hear coming up here in a little bit was really, really valuable. But there's something else that came up in this interview that I've been thinking about a lot since we said it, but it's the idea that we have a responsibility to take care of our younger selves. And one of the ways that Frannie speaks to that is the idea literally of hugging her younger self, like giving the child inside of her a squeeze to say you're safe and you're okay and you're valuable and you mean something to me. And then she added a piece that has actually kind of haunted me. And it's the idea that not only do our younger children need hugs, but so do our parents, meaning sometimes there's access to healing if we will give ourselves permission to hug our parents' inner children, to hug the younger, less mature version of our parents, kind of let them off the hook. There's a song that Noah Kahan sings, and it's called "Growing Sideways." He's a singer-songwriter with just a guy with a guitar, and it's about his going to therapy. And there's a line in the middle of that song that I think is pretty profound, and it's the idea of where he's talking about his own anger, and he says, "I'm still angry at my parents for what their parents did to them." And it's this invitation to appreciate that trauma or that relational challenges are passed down generation to generation, and that there is often these sort of hidden challenges, relational challenges in our actual hereditary, in our actual legacy. And I think it's our job to curb that, to stop it, to do something about it, to set our kids up for success in ways that maybe our parents didn't. So I think, that means we have to learn how to give ourselves a hug, to do some reparenting for ourselves, to maybe do some reparenting of our own parents, which maybe is not your cup of tea or something you don't really want to do, but could be valuable. And then also, I think, to model that for our kids so that they know how to take care of themselves and of us. I'm just really aware that if I'm going to be in a healthy adult relationship with my kids, that's going to also include them having some grace for the fact that I didn't know what I was doing either. So if we can do that for our parents, I don't know. It feels really important. And Noah Kahan revealed that for me in that song. Frannie Sheridan does it in this conversation. Is very, very fun hearing them just describe what it means for them to be moving through life in the second half or the last third, and how they're taking advantage of every moment to seize peace and joy and connection. And they have a unique perspective that I'm really intrigued by. I hope you will too. This is a very cool conversation. Stick around. Frannie and Danny, what's shaking? How are you guys doing this morning?
Hey, so good to finally meet you, Zach. Thanks for having us on.
It's not this morning anymore. It's this afternoon because you're in Florida, yeah?
Right.
Cool. Well,
it's a morning for us all the time.
It's morning for you all the time?
Yeah, it's sunny. It's nice all the time.
Morning, yes. The morning of our life.
Yeah.
Danny's being very deep and philosophical.
Well, tell me about your day. How does your day go? Do you wake up together in the same bed?
No, I'm a ridiculously early bird. Usually,
Okay.
99%. Literally up at 4 today. But also, I'm completing a project, so I'm filming when Danny's asleep.
Okay.
And that's very helpful because, we spend a lot of time talking. You might find that hard to believe. So when I have quiet time, I'm putting together a companion guide to my new audiobook, and it has 52 stress management methods that are, disguised. They're fun, they're playful, and they're actionable. They're very short, 3-minute, 3 times a day type of thing. So I'm videotaping them, and I was up at 4, but I get up at that time and I do
4 or 5.
my thing first, which is basically, I meditate, and I do like a little bit of a stretch workout, and then I do a little bit of a weight workout, and then
And
this dude
I
gets
get
up,
my beauty sleep until 7.
and you can see it's paying off.
Right.
And yeah, Danny's usually up at 7:30. I get him up, and I get him up with stuff that I've recorded, actually. Right,
Okay.
usually that he likes.
Yeah,
which,
I love her voice in the morning.
which is like kind of a humming meditation.
Yeah.
And then
Nothing better to wake up than with our voice in the morning.
don't you? I mean, I can't think of a better.
Yeah.
That's just like 20 years,
Yeah.
and he says that. That's just to me the sweetest thing.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay. So that's part of your gig too, the humming thing. I want to hear more about that in a second. But all right. So Danny, then you get up at 7:30, and then what do you guys do?
I do a little bit of exercise in the morning to wake up. My Qigong and exercise in the morning to wake up. We have businesses that we are running, so we have to check what's going on, see what's happened from the night before. And then we through the whole morning, we are talking, we communicated nonstop.
We're blabosauruses,
Yeah, we're
Zach.
blabosauruses.
There's no,
Right.
and which is why I get up, in the night to do certain things,
Yeah.
because it's, we're very, very engaged with
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you talk about? What do you?
Oh. You should say
Absolute and utter nonsense.
you should say what you don't talk about.
Well,
we talk about
exactly.
everything.
No, I mean, well, like this morning, honestly, we had
Business,
a meeting with one of our business partners, and that went on for 20 minutes. So we did, some preamble for
plans,
that,
stuff like that,
and
insurance,
different stuff that is not all that exciting. But we also mind meld over, what we're creating. Like, I'm very excited about this project I mentioned, and we're going to Mexico next month for 10 days
vacation,
to an old friend's home we've not been to in Playa del Carmen, and so we're just like everything and anything, really.
Yeah, much
Okay.
needed vacation. Yeah.
Okay. So you get up, you're hanging out, you're doing your thing in the morning, you're talking to each other. Then what happens? Does there a shift in the middle of your day somewhere? Do you have a?
Usually 12 o'clock is exercise time, so we are busy.
Is that twice?
For Danny,
You're exercising
mine
again.
is done.
Okay. Because you wake up and you do a little exercise, and then you have another one.
Wake up in the morning, I do
Correct.
Qigong and like 10 minutes of movement of Qigong and all kind of exercise waking up. The real exercise start around 12 when we start doing weights and
For Danny, I'm done by the time he's up.
treadmill and weights at least good hour. That's the real exercise. And then breakfast, lunch, because I am on
second breakfast. Yeah, like the Hobbit.
Yeah, second breakfast.
No, it's the only breakfast.
For Danny. Danny does a gluten-free thing.
Yeah, I do intermittent fasting. So
I got him on intermittent fasting. It's something that I've done for years, and he was very much not into it, but then I locked him in the closet, just a very progressive way to handle. No, but he's really, I'm so proud of him, Zach. He's lost a lot of weight.
I dropped about 20 pounds.
Yeah.
It's not an easy drop. So you drop it slowly, but it's gone.
So we do that. And then we also, we listen to a lot of wisdom, everything from, Dispenza to Hicks, a lot of the so-called modern day sages. Okay. And, what else do we do, Sweetness?
Yeah, then, it's afternoon coffee. Right.
Then it's time for us to have another nap.
You're living your best life.
So we have our afternoon coffee that usually we go outside.
Yeah, but also, Zach, we run one of our businesses. We have an energy center.
Okay.
in North Palm Beach, which is about 25 minutes from here. And so we're there a few days of the week, and our business partner is there.
Okay.
We love to go sit in the garden at the Breakers,
Right.
which is this exquisite old hotel in Palm Beach Island. We
Right.
sit in the courtyard. It's our
Okay.
favorite place. It is orchids and
Yeah.
squirrels, and we feed the birds,
And we know some people, and we get some people, so
we ignore a lot of people, but we're nice.
Right.
We politely ignore people. Don't
I
get
love it.
involved in anything heavy,
love it.
But our thing is that we've been married for 2,000 years, and we're both from war zones. Danny's from the Middle East. His mom
Okay.
was my mother-in-law, Egyptian, French, and he grew up in Israel, and I grew up in Canada. And my parents are Holocaust survivors, so the
Oh,
war
wow.
never ended. So my
Yeah.
whole thing is having healed my inherited PTSD, which has been my work internationally for decades in various forms. And then Danny, coming from his background, and so we lead, workshops that deal with different methods that we use to mitigate our stress and to rise above and remember who we are,
Okay.
and that's something we practice every day in addition to what we shared with you,
Yeah.
all these different methods and so forth. And it has helped us, I would say, radically, tremendously, as Danny says.
All right. Okay. So how do you do that? How do you like if you were beginning a conversation with somebody who was coming in and they were having challenges navigating through some of this carried trauma that you're describing, like what's the cliff notes? What's the low-hanging fruit that you offer them right away?
I think that the most important thing is Frannie Sheridan's belief is that wars don't happen because of hatred of the other, which I used to believe, Zach.
Right.
It's because of not being in love with self.
Okay.
And so for me, my journey has been about learning to love myself. And many well-intentioned, usually, not always, parental figures start us off on this path when we're which is don't do that, be careful, the world is a scary place.
Right.
And so we get imprinted or embedded or patterned, whatever you want to call it.
Worry all the time, watching
Worry
everybody.
and terror, and you're not good enough,
Yeah.
and who are you to and so diminishing of the fact that we are love. We are the love we've been waiting for. So I try, everyone has a different, there's no one size fits all. Everybody is in a different place according to where they're at emotionally, yada, yada. So I have a whole slew of different techniques and stuff to offer people based on where they're at emotionally. And some things work then and some don't. I mean, if you're feeling like crap, you don't want to, kind of get up and do the Franny dance and just find the joy and shake it off.
Right.
You're going to want to do something more subtle. One thing that Danny and I spoke about before meeting you today and being interviewed by you is how we changed over the past 6 months.
Okay.
And for example, what we do, which might work depending again on where that person is.
Sure. I love that.
What we spoke about was affirmations.
Yes.
Affirmations.
So I was a different person 6 months ago than I am now.
Wow. Okay.
A little bit heavier and
In more ways than one, is I think what
Okay.
Danny's
very
alluding to.
hard-headed, a little bit more hard-headed, getting annoyed from everything. And we start to find out what's the cause of everything. Franny nailed them down, and we came up with affirmations.
Okay.
Affirmations are really working for us.
For
Again,
us.
everyone
Right.
is unique, and
Right.
a
I love
unique
that.
snowflake.
Right.
Yeah. I love that you're making that clarification
So
because
what we do is we hug each other very deeply every day, especially 1 a.m, or if she takes a nap and she gets up from nap, she gets a hug. as soon
But
as she
even,
gets up.
I'm going to interrupt Danny a little bit, just because, and he interrupts me. So don't think we're being, that's just who we are. We're interrupters. Hi, my name is Franny, it's Danny.
I'm interrupted.
We're interrupters.
Yes, I'm
Part of the 12-step group, it's not working. But
Yeah.
but basically, like we do this affirmation stuff a lot during the day, not just from a nap or in the morning. Because, I know we do it before we get in the car. We do it before we get out of the car.
We do it before we make a phone call to the bank or the
Anything,
business.
yeah,
anything.
any business. But especially when we're doing something together, and we have are, so what I would do with somebody is I would get to know them a little bit and know what their vulnerable points are. And in our case, for example, because Danny shared with you that he was a little bit hot-headed, so we say, first of all, we're hugging. So it's a heart hug because, there's actual physiological shifts that happen when it's heart to heart without getting too long.
And it's over a minute. So
over a minute. And so it really kicks in terms of the heart connection, the brain-heart coherence connection. And so in our case, we say, Danny says, I am bringing you peace. That speaks to Danny.
Right.
I am bringing you kindness and gentleness, tenderness. What else?
Peace,
love,
respect, kindness.
So he's putting it not only in his mind's eye intellectually, but in his heart. And I mirror that. I say the same thing, essentially. We've kind of worked on these for our own unique union and our own relationship. And we do this, and it just brings it to the forefront because our experience and my experience is that it really all has to do with being willing to tell a different story.
Yeah.
And all of the audiences and clients that I've worked with, where it works is when people are willing to shift their perspective or tell a different story. But what I find, Zach, is the thing that gets in the way, unbeknownst to certainly me and many of us, is shame. Because people start thinking, wow, if my old story doesn't work, I could have stayed in that marriage, kept that job, not moved from that city, if I had shifted my story. And so there's a lot of self-flagellation, beating up of oneself that isn't necessary. Shame is so systemic in our society. It doesn't mean people shouldn't be accountable. It's not what I'm saying. But people, I find, are unwilling to change their story because underneath that, they feel like they've wasted time. And that is never true. There's always more time. You know what I mean? Maybe not this incarnation, but, we're eternal as far as we're concerned anyway.
Yeah.
Right on. That's fascinating. I actually love that you are highlighting that maybe this doesn't work for everybody, but it works for you. And that there's part of the work is figuring out what works for us. But there's nothing wrong with pursuing affirmation, nothing wrong with, you just have to figure out whether or not that affirmation is going to apply. And I think you're exactly right. People are telling themselves stories from the minute they're born, even if they're not conscious stories. And we reinforce those for the rest of our lives. I want to ask you about something I heard yesterday, because you're from Canada.
Can I just add one thing about the affirmation before you continue?
Please. Yeah.
I'll find out that if I stand in front of the mirror and I say before we head out, what a nice road we're having, what a light traffic I'm having, what a calm traffic I'm having. Usually, I will go outside and it's road that usually a lot of traffic. It's not going to be any traffic.
Right.
So most of the affirmation that we do before doing anything happening to the universe.
Annie, do you think that changes the number of cars on the road, or do you think it changes the way that you perceive traffic?
Good question.
Good question. I think it will perceive this number of the car that will be on the road at that moment. And it's also, if will be less cars, I would feel that it's less traffic compared to too many cars and too much traffic. So at that moment, for me, it's like more flowing, more ease to drive than too much traffic, And
I'm going to...
9 out of 10, it's happening.
I'm going to hop in and say I agree, and I raise it just a little sprinkle, and then I'm going to shut up so you can ask your question, which is that it depends on not just what we say, but where we're at with our frequency, because everything is energy.
Right.
So if I'm going, for example, my case, I'm going to get on the road and there's going to be absolutely no traffic all the way to Miami, but I'm like, and there has to be.
Right.
So I've got this aggression and this sort of tension.
Come in.
Then I'm going to actually attract tension. I may attract more, but if I'm actually in a peaceful place, in a place of having some, certainty, some trust.
That's it. There was certainty.
Then I will magnetize it. You know, so it's
like you
gotta
see
work
it happen
together.
already. You're not commanding it to happen. You're seeing it happen already.
Feel it.
You feel it happen.
So it's the mind and the emotion working in tandem. Otherwise, I can talk about anything I want.
I learned it from her. She used to do affirmation about, what was it that you
chocolate. No, I don't know.
She used to see stuff before.
We gotta let Zach.
She imagined seeing it, and it's happening. 9 out of 10, it's happening. We try to do it with a lot of money, but that's
Okay, well, we've done it with a
we
lot of
are
money.
there. We are
All
there.
right, so let's
Bye.
let Zach ask a question before the sun
Bye.
sets.
All right. Now I have two questions. Well, let me ask this. This is not the question I wanted to ask a couple minutes ago, but this is now the question I have, which is, what do you say to people who are listening or who you are talking to, you run into, and they're like, man, all this is too woo woo for me. It's a little too
Right.
esoteric. Like, how do you speak to those folks who are coming in with like skepticism about this whole ability to move energy?
For me, it might not going to work for somebody else that's sitting next to me, but for me, it's working. So I see it that it's working for me. I believe that it's working for me. I have experienced that it's working for me. I know it's working for me. I tried before and it's working for me. So for me, it's working. Now, if I speak to somebody, if it's not you and somebody, and I tell him exactly what to do the same thing, he might do it and it's not going to work for him. It's all perspective, how you see things. I see it in a way that it's happening already.
Okay, and if I can jump in and answer, so quantum physicists speak now at Yale and many of the, so-called principal or, Ivy League universities about the quantum field. It absolutely is proven. They will say it without flinching. So that this field exists, this field of energy. It's a matter of whether you call it the field or the darkness or energy. It is no longer woo-woo, except for people who, haven't kind of woken up to this information. It has to do, though, with being able to access it and implement it. And again, it's not an intellectual exercise. It is together with an open heart, because there are actually more neurons in our heart. The heart has a brain that has more neurons, and this is not woo woo. This is proven stuff. It's just the research is there. And it is being, the next generation is going to have this knowledge, and it'll be far from woo woo. It's just that it hasn't been in the mainstream, and for a number of reasons. But so, the proof is in the pudding, but it takes, listen, just like going to the gym. I mean, if Pilates was going to get me buff, I would have just stared at my arm in the 70s and I'd be like, Mrs. Arnold Schwarzenegger now. You have to go to what I call the spiritual spa. It's all about repetition and practicing, because think about how long we and anyone else has, been programming themselves or unconsciously practicing something that hasn't served self and hasn't really allowed us to magnetize our dreams, our goals, and so forth. And so, yeah, go ahead.
And I think for a lot of the people that watching us, if you have a chance to watch Dr. Joe Dispenza or Esther Hicks, they are talking about this constantly. I mean, all the time, nonstop. And those are people that study it with the Joe Dispenza, have scientists that checked it out.
Would used to not shake his hand. I don't know if you know his story, Zach, but he would invite scientists to his, he now sells out like this. Huge stadiums all over the world. Yeah. He has, so many different universities doing studies. San Diego University of, the stuff works, but it needs to be practiced. In his case, he has 7-day retreats because, the empirical evidence screams the loudest to people. Most people need to see it before they believe it. And so when he has 7-day retreats, so many people are healing themselves that all of a sudden the next person and the next person gets the idea. So really, if you have the desire, do the research. It comes down to that.
Yeah. No, I get it. I think I'm waking up more and more to the idea that there's a lot more that I don't know than that I do know. And so when I commit to what I do know, I limit myself. I limit my capacity for growth and
all
for
of
change
us.
and for influence. And so I'm always interested in what else might be out there. Let me ask you this other question that I heard yesterday, because you're from Canada and you have a broader experience than I do. But someone shared with me, and I won't be able to quote this precisely, but it was something like a survey of nations or people asking whether or not they thought their neighbor was morally good or their neighbor was morally, not good. And Canadians were most inclined to say that their neighbor was morally good. They were at the top of the list.
Really?
And at the bottom of the list was Americans. Americans generally thought that their neighbor was not morally good.
Wow.
And that there was a giant range in between. And I wonder if your experience in living all over the world and coming from war zones and being, just exposed to different people, if you have a sense of how neighbors and morally good, I don't know, if you have a sense of like how that works on the planet.
What an interesting question, Zach. I've never been asked that. Well, I thought you were going to say you have being Canadian, a broader sense, broader experience apologizing, which is true. But as far as morally good goes, that the word moral in itself is in question in my mind, because we all have different, kind of definitions of what is and or isn't moral. And mostly to me, as a female and as just a human being on planet Earth, I really, don't feel like it's my business so much to determine that. If I see abuse, physical, emotion, or spiritual, to me, that's, nothing that's okay with me ever. I would never condone it. But other than that, I try not to kind of poke my nose in other people's business, because it's so hard to determine why people, make a decision to do what they do. And things that were determined immoral not so long ago, like women weren't allowed to vote until the 60s. Gay people were not treated with respect, minorities, all of this stuff. So the word moral, but it's such an interesting question. I mean, for us we live in a condo building here. What gets our goat is if neighbors are, disrespectful and super loud. We don't attract those kind of people.
Yeah.
But in Canada, I have to say, I never really, I can't say I see it any different here or anywhere else. And I mean, culturally, in certain places, maybe people are louder, like in the Middle East, but then you guys are louder in general. So then but moral is a different word. It's a different.
I'm just asking about whether or not people move through the world trusting others or not trusting others.
Trusting is a different thing.
How does that work?
Trusting. Well, listen, it's such a different time in the world than, when I grew up in Canada. I grew up with so much terror because my parents were Holocaust survivors and we were undercover. I was raised Catholic and I wasn't allowed to tell anyone I was Jewish. So that in itself was systemically terror. There's when I found out that we're supposed to be scared of the world, my, Walt Disney-esque childhood all of a sudden transformed into sepia-toned, grays. And so I was kind of terrified of like Bugs Bunny, you know what I mean? Like, is Bugs Bunny anti-Semitic? You know what I'm saying? So it was a different sort of a reality for me. But as far as trusting, once I got past my childhood, so to speak, and I came out of the knish closet and I realized it was so much more than a religion or culture. It has to do with falling in love with yourself, whether you're, a Muslim, Christian, Jewish, gay, straight, it has nothing to do with it. And as far as trusting goes, I feel that most people are good. I really do. I feel that it's really an anomaly for me if I think, oh, that person is really kind of creepy or whatever. I can't think when I last saw that up close and personal. Yeah. I'm not talking about somebody in the press or media or whatever. That's a whole other, nightmare. But I really try not to get too involved with, to be honest, because you can't do anything about that. I like to take care of my family, my friends, what's around me. I think people are generally so good, and we get off kilter when we haven't done our own work, remembering how loved we are. Like hurt people, that old adage is true. And so a lot of the work that, I don't like to call it work, but what Danny and I do, and again, somebody who, wants something bite-sized, is what I find is such a beautiful method, Zach, is inner child stuff. So, not just falling in love with our own inner child, but our parents' inner child, because they were once little children who were innocent and came, every child was, even the worst of the worst. And that's the thing. And that way we don't hold the hard-heartedness in ourselves. It's the only way to let go of, and it doesn't make us naive. And it doesn't, it actually, what I find it does is it allows us to be more centered in our body, so that if, God forbid, something should happen, just like in Eastern martial artists, when you're centered in your own breath and in your heart and in your mind, you can, if there's a shark attack, which is not going to happen very often, you can defend yourself from a place of centeredness.
Right on.
I find the Canadian basically very, very polite compared to other places.
Yeah.
So polite. So obviously, when people are so polite, you feel like you can trust them more than somebody that is not polite. That's my feeling,
Yeah,
So-
I'm not asking a question about international relations as much as I'm asking a question about how are we like postured inside of our own bodies. And so it's intriguing to hear about that. I think I will, Frannie, it's really intriguing to hear you talk about your parents' inner child. I think I will spend time thinking about that, because that is, those of us who are traumatized by our parents, sometimes it's worth noting that they were traumatized by their parents.
Well, absolutely.
And they were traumatized by their parents, and they were traumatized by their parents. And now we have a choice as to whether we're going to continue to traumatize our own children or not. And that's where that inner work comes into. When you first reached out to me, you have a project that involves humming, which I was like, that's intriguing. I don't know if I've ever even considered that would be a thing other than what I would do in the shower. So tell me about what this is and how this goes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, this came to me, I was trying to quiet my mind. Different humming things have come to me over the years, and I've used them. The humming thing came in full force, maybe, 2 years ago, when I was meditating, trying to quiet the mind. And I just started humming, and I was like, what is going on? It was obnoxious to me. And then it kind of came, and I realized it was some sort of vibration that was happening through me. And so I began to, research it, and I found out it's ancient and indigenous, and a lot of people who have, so-called dementia, hum automatically. Kids with so-called ADHD or ADD or whatever hum automatically. It's a self-soothing thing. And also, bizarrely, some indigenous cultures use it, not really bizarrely, but to communicate with rocks. Believe it or not, all this is, there's some very interesting things.
Sure.
But humming is ancient. And so I began to explore it, teach it in, teach workshops, inner child workshops, and also humming workshops, techniques and methods for, fun stress management. So the physiological benefits are massive. Of course, it activates nitric oxide as opposed to nitrous oxide when you go to the dentist. So it's nitric oxide, and the vagus nerve is activated, which runs basically through your whole body. They used to just think it was kind of just in this area, and it runs through your whole body. And so I experimented, Zach, with it to find the best way to implement it together with breath holds and the sound. And so I'll just show you. You want me to show you? It's super easy, quick.
Yeah.
So breathing in through Danny and I will do it together. So, and by the way, we do this inner child work together. So we can show you if there's time. If not, fine too. But anyway, so basically what we do for humming is we often think like of a color, because that's another piece of it. Color has, whatever comes to mind. It's not an intellectual. So let's say, I don't know, for me right now, it's gold. What about you?
Blue.
Okay. So you breathe in through your nose. Okay. So you breathe in through, and you hold it for a few counts. And then we exhale on the word home as opposed to om or because it has more velocity. Home. And I've experimented with that, data backed, with audiences and stuff. And we exhale for as long as we can. So the breath hold activates CO2, carbon dioxide, and then that's the inhale rather when you hold it. And the exhale is nitric oxide. So we'll show you. Okay. So you go with your color. So we breathe in color through the nose, hold it for 3. And then we exhale as long as we can, humming on the word Danny is an Olympic level hummer. And so the more you do it, the longer you do it. We do that 3 times a day, and you're golden. And if you're in the car, your hands on the steering wheel, somebody cuts you off, you get that weird phone call, whatever. It is one of the, I mean, there's so many different methods that I have that are so quick and actionable, and they work, but this changes the chemistry in your body immediately.
And also it changes, like if you have some bad thought that you are in a situation when you're pissed about something and it keep bugging you, why did I do this, why did I do that? You do harm 3 times, it changes your thought. Your brain start thinking about something else. It will divert it somewhere, and you start thinking about something else.
Yeah, it divests you.
It will take you away than just being at that thought.
From the blame, shame game. You know, gets you out of there.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell me a little bit about inner child work, because I'm intrigued by that in my own work, and I bet you have a different perspective than I do.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sure. So
35 years she's doing that work.
Well, I mean, I started out doing it as a storyteller, you know, doing solo shows internationally. And then I basically, okay, well, let's just cut to the way Danny and I do it, and the way that one of the exercises with inner child, once we, for example, breathed in a color, and then I have it, you know, I like to breathe a color around the body. So from the front of the body to like basically the wall, behind your back to the wall, the sides, everything. So you're going into, or you're accessing, or you're feeling what's called the quantum field, as you know, or the field, the darkness, with eyes closed, and you let yourself float. And I find that my body will start to move because I'm connected to whatever you want to call it, source, God, the big unified field in the sky, the, you know, whatever. The apple pie in the sky, it doesn't matter. We're all part of love, the unified field of love. And so, and then what Danny and I have led us to do is we then, with eyes closed, we imagine ourselves as that beautiful little child, little Danny, little Frannie, looking up at us with the big eyes and wanting a hug. And so we can go ahead and we hug little Frannie, little Danny, and we rock them. And it's like you're integrating with that part of yourself. And you're saying,
you're doing it with your actual body right now, like your
actual body. And we say, we love you. You are safe now, little Danny and big Danny. And then from there, we move ahead. Okay. Sometimes we'll do it integrating our parents. So we think of Danny thinks of his father.
I try to remember my mother when she was a kid in this dress.
A photograph
that I have of my father when he was a kid, and his daughter used to give him his pants, and it was too big on him. You know. So,
and I think of my mother as a little child, and my father's and they were innocent kids. Everyone was little loving kids who just wanted to be loved. And we imagine them again with eyes closed and look at them. And it's really quite a beautiful thing to do. So you think, my mom was Liesel, my dad was Bernie, Danny's mama was Margalit, and mama was father was Yitzhak, sorry. And so he feels them and says, we love you, little Liesel. So we really because my belief, Frannie Sheridan's belief is they are still with us energetically, and they can feel this. And so, and I imagine, Zach, that we pick them up and we hug them and we say, we love you so much. And so we're integrating all the children. And so we'll stop there because there's other parts to this, but that's really it. And it allows a heart opening. I had a client, Jeannie, who texted me yesterday, who has some sort of resentment, to say the least, with her mama. And she's, our client coming on Saturday night. And she said the inner child stuff really allowed her to release some stuff and feel closer. And she said, it's so interesting. She's coming we have overnight sessions as well at our center the night before Mother's Day. And so it worked beautifully for her to see her mother as this innocent, loving, beautiful little child who just wanted love. And as you said, it's intergenerational. They're, parent, how many years does it get passed on? And I was told by two different healers who over the years came to my solo show, which was about, my healing in a different way as a performer, as a storyteller, but came backstage and said to me, and I didn't understand it at the time, you, through this work, have healed 3 generations in the future and in the past. I didn't know. I thought they were woo-woo at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But because we're all atomically connected and beyond that energetically for forever, this, this impacts people across the world, like all the work you're doing and all of us, we have a much bigger imprint in a spiritual sense, than we even know.
That's fascinating. And I'm so grateful that you're telling me about it and that we can expose it to other people. I have one more question before we have to shut it down, which is,
sure.
How do the two of you end your day?
Oh, that's a nice question. It depends. Like I am a earlier sleeper than Danny generally because I get up so early. I love getting up early.
So we're cooking dinner here usually.
Yes.
We have our own food. We like organic food, so we cook our own food here.
Yes.
And we usually,
or we go for dinner. Depends where we are in the world.
So we have dinner together and finishing the day.
So then we will watch something educational, Zach, usually with dinner.
Yeah. Like Joe Dispenza.
Like a Joe Dispenza or whomever, something like that. Right? We listen to Abraham Hicks a lot. So we're reprogramming when we're not doing our stuff, we're reprogramming, or I'm writing or creating, or Danny's writing, not writing, but creating, and, his things are doing business. But or, if we're out having a beautiful dinner somewhere, we'll enjoy that somewhere in the world or out here on the ocean. But then I refuse to feed myself anything except joy. I'm at that place. So I do not engage in politics. I'll dip my finger in, you know what I mean? But that's it. I don't, because I just find this is all so divisive. And I think people are their heart good. And the whole, manipulation of sides and division. We have people from every group, coming to our different businesses and in my audience. I'm a lover. I love everyone. And I will not condone abuse. But other than that, please don't talk to me about it because I'm going to make up an excuse and say that I have a very busy phone call and without apology. Do you know what I mean? I have what I call my CCO, my Chief Chill Out Officer, Zach. Or my chief, I say my CCO and I have a meeting. I totally forgot. Got to go. Bye. And I'll get out of there. But then we will watch something funny before I go to sleep. And I don't know if you're familiar with Mike and Molly, the Netflix.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, we love it. It's just so silly. And they're really skilled. We
usually finish with something funny before we go to sleep.
Yeah, I won't, and that's it. And then I'm out of there. And then, that's us together. And then I feed myself, stuff before I go off to Dreamy Bye's land.
Yes. I love it. Well, if my listeners want to learn more about what you have going on, what's the best place to point them?
Sure.
Where should they go?
My audiobook, I'm so excited, will be out the Kindle version will be out in a few weeks, and it comes with a companion guide with 32 very digestible, real-time stress management. And it's not just for people who've been through trauma, because if somebody cuts your hair wrong, how are you going to deal with the stress? So there's a companion guide called the Post-Traumatic Joy Overload Playbook. Wow. And the book is called I Tried to Be Normal, but it was taken. And the audiobook will be out, like I say, in a few months so please look for it on ACX, Amazon. But you can always find me at FrannieSheridan.com. I also go live. I haven't for the past few weeks just because I've been busy, but almost every Thursday at 12 noon EST on Facebook at Frannie Sheridan, and on TikTok on Friday. What time am I going live now?
9 o'clock in the morning.
It's a little later now. I think 10 o'clock or 9:30. 9:30.
I love it.
And this is EST.
Yep. East, because you guys are in Florida.
We're in Florida.
Very cool. Well, listen, thanks so much for giving me a part of your day and for just letting me behind the curtains a little bit. It's very cool to hear your story.
You're adorable, Zach. Your energy is
That's
so
one of my favorite compliments.
Cool.
I love being adorable.
It really is. Love you. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
having us both.
Yeah, thank you, really.
Yeah, what a
It was
joy.
fun. Yeah.
Have a beautiful day. Enjoy Seattle. Lots of love.
Thank you, Frannie and Danny, for coming on Marriage Therapy Radio. You should check out her book, which is due out in July. Yeah, it's just, again, I hope that you had an experience of just hearing how another couple does it, as much as they may or may not be like you at all, that there is access to healing through our bodies and through the universe, or however you want to think about that, but that, ultimately staying connected to the people closest to us is the thing that helps us move through life. And that's what I hope for you. Thank you for supporting Marriage Therapy Radio. Please do leave a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And also, you can follow us on the Instagram, where you'll get most of the updates about what's going on. And you can also follow me on Substack. I'm at stuffiwrite.com, and I am writing about relationships and also not relationships ahead of this book launch, which comes out in April, but I'm still just trying to keep my writing muscles alive. And so check that out. But for now, I'll thank you for the time and attention you're putting into making your relationship better today than it was yesterday.